Hello everyone, my name is Joseph S. Butawan of Butawan National High School. For today, I'm going to talk about doing qualitative research in a form of data analysis. In my topic, it is outlined based on the definition of qualitative research, collecting of data, tips for interviewing, analysis of data, coding of data, and transcribing of data. But before we begin, let us have this activity. So what do you think the job or the work of this man in the picture? How about this? Okay. If your answer is a police investigator, kayo ay tama or you are correct. Is it because they want to investigate a certain case based on the situation happens? Now, let us have this topic. Qualitative research. According to Albert Einstein, not everything that can be counted counts. Not everything that counts can be counted. It means in qualitative research, there are certain things that a research cannot be measured through numerical data, and that is what you call qualitative research. So what is qualitative research? It is actually an umbrella or a term covering an array of interpretive techniques. It seeks also to describe, decode, translate, and at the same time, focus on the meaning of the statements provided by the subjects or the participants. It is also a strategy for systematic collection, organization, and interpretation of textual information. In terms of the characteristics of qualitative research, in focus, it is a process and at the same time understanding a certain pattern or a themes and provided such meaning. And the primary instrument of data generating and analysis is the researcher itself. Unlike to quantitative research, the instrument that they applied is mostly the survey questionnaire. But in qualitative, it's different. In terms of process, it is inductive. Is it because the researcher will provide the data through inductive logical reasoning, while the product is descriptive rather than to its interpretation or interpretive? Is it because it mostly the data mostly describe than to interpret it? Now, let us have the other. In collecting data, the common data collection techniques in qualitative research is a document examination. Observation may be passive or active. Interviews, sometimes it is semi-structured or unstructured. A focus group discussion provided by 7 to 10 people, and the researcher will serve as only as the moderator or the middleman. Triangulation, it is using different sources of information. Actually, it will add to the credibility or the accuracy of this a certain study. There are some tips for interviewing. To prepare interview guide, you have to introduce self first, permission to record, purpose of study, prepare open-ended springboard question. It means it is what you call the SOP before you conduct an interview. You have to get their permission or the authority na kayo ay magre-record ng kanilang ikakonduct na interview. Don't ask your questions or research questions directly to your subject or to your participants. Be as conversational as possible, or don't just only stick to the question, but of course there are some unexpected answers that we will identify that will come from your subjects. So you have to be conversational as possible. strike a balance in between what is interesting to you and interesting to your interviewee. Proceed interviews with a focus group and pilot your interview schedule. In the analysis of data, in terms of doing qualitative research, there are many ways to analyze qualitative data, but the most common is decoding. According to Strauss 1987, any researcher who wishes to become proficient in doing qualitative research analysis must learn to code well and easily. The excellence of the research rests in large part on the excellence of decoding. In coding, it involves decoding and encoding. Decoding means you are reflecting on the statement or the passage of the data that you gather from your subjects or from your participants. And then you are provide such meaning, and then that is what you call a coding. And with the encoding, you are determining the appropriate code for that. And then you are labeling a certain portion of the data. So what is code? Code is a word or a short phrase that symbolically assigned as a summative for a certain passage or statement. It is also a summary of condensed data, transitional process that bridge in between the collection and more extensive in-depth data analysis, and it is not precise as science. Is it because in quantitative research, the most common that we applied or use is the statistical treatment, while in qualitative research, we have the coding. So, coding also involves searching for a pattern in the data and for ideas that help explain those patterns. It means it will also serve as a guide in order for us to go in a deep theory that we want to create or to make it. So it's search for a recurring patterns and a themes. So a pattern can be characterized by, according to Hatch 2002, similarity, or the things happen in the same way. Sometimes it is a pattern that will characterize through differences. They happen in predictably different ways. Frequency, they happen often or seldom. Sequence, they happen in a certain order. Or let's say a year from past to present. Also in a correspondence, they happen in relation to other activities or events. Causation, one appear to cause another. Coding is labeling and linking that leads you to data to idea. It means from a raw data or from a statements provided by your subjects, and then you will come up into an idea. Coding is a judgment call. Is it because in doing qualitative research, it is a subjective type of research design. It is influenced by our subjective personalities, predisposition, the types of questions that we want to ask, and the types of answers that we get, and the types of characteristics of participants and the like. So we call this as coding filters. So there are common types of coding, and it is in the first cycle of our conducted data gathering. We have the first one is the descriptive. You are summarizing and then describing a certain passage or a statement. In vivo, you are taken directly from what participants said. Okay? With the process, this is all about searching for ongoing action. Sometimes this is in a form of gerunds and ing words. And for the emotional coding, it is label emotions that recalled by the experience of the participants. With the values coding, this is all about a reflection of the participants' values, attitudes, and their beliefs. So I have here a sample coding. Um, the statement of the subject is medyo thesis ako noon, yung naghahanap, nagtatanong habang tumatagal, parang mas marami akong natututunan. Bali yung naka-attract sa akin unti-unti na-convince ako at masaya. Ako kasi yung maraming tanong ko ang nasasagot at saka yung mga turo nila biblical talaga. Yung may basihan talaga parang malinaw sa akin. So if you are going to give a code with that, on the first part of the passage, it is confusing. So that's why we have to code that as a confused code. And the other one is intellectually satisfied. If you are going to use descriptive code, so depende yung kung anong code ang ating gagamitin. And the other one is Vivo code. Vivo code is the same as the transcript, but it is defined, depends upon the code that you are going to apply or to utilize. Medyo crisis ako noon, yung naghahanap, nagtatanong, so it's crisis. Bali yung naka-attract sa akin, attracted, and then convince. Marami akong tanong, unti-unting na-convince ako at masaya, so that is convince code. The other one is the values code. Medyo crisis ako noon. So, if you're going to sum up with that, in terms of values code, that is prioritizing biblical-based doctrine. And for the emotion code, medyo crisis ako noon, naghahanap, nagtatanong, confused, and then, at the end of the passage, it interpret or manifest that as happy. Yung participants, happy na siya. Is it because unti-unti na ako na-convince at masaya ako kasi maraming tanong kung nasasagot. So, what the emotion of the participants they want to emphasize is he or she is happy. In the process code, medyo crisis ako noon, yung naghahanap, nagtatanong habang tumatagal para mas marami akong natututuhan, bali yung naka-attract sa akin, unti na-convince, and so on. So, on the first part of it, that is searching. Okay? In a process code. While for the other one, believing. In a process code, mostly, they are using ing gerund. Okay? Searching and believing. So, with that process code, after the statement or the passage of the subject, you are going to describe that based on the passage, and that is through the use of the process code. Okay, I have here a sample qualitative study, a phenomenological study of the experiences as a newly retired professional teacher. So, this is the coding of the data that you will see on the methodology part. So, the study utilized a semi-structured interview process conducted by the researcher, which is only one participant. Interviews were recorded through the use of mobile phones. The code for data retrieved from, so na-retrieve yung data, and then si researcher nilagyan niya ng code yung kanyang yung sagot yung sagot niya came from the subject. So ang ginawa niya, the code for data retrieved for an interview transcript include, ilagay niya ng capital P. P means a public elementary school teacher, where the participant is employed bago siya maging head teacher. Then, the next code is first initial of the participant, pseudonym, B. So, ginawa ko na lang na B as beautiful because to be a teacher is a beautiful. So that's why I use a pseudonym B. These two letters are followed by the letter I, means the data was taken from an interview transcript, and the code ends with a number indicating the number of questions provided, and it will ask to semi-structured interview. Yung number, that is the research questions provided in the statement of the problem by the researcher. So it means 1 means number 1 question. So, for example, the transcription code PBI1 indicates that the data was cited using the transcription from public school with participant beautiful during an interview and can be found on question number 1 of the transcription from the interview. So, I have here the transcription of the data. Number 1 question, what are the lived experiences of a newly retired professional teacher? Ang sabi niya dito, by the way, in qualitative research, kahit yung simpleng pag-ubo o yung pag-iingay ay dapat naka-record din sa inyong written works as a written result. Sabi niya dito, nakatira kami dati sa isang compound sa Silang. As a retired teacher, maraming pagbabago sa bagay. Di ko din naman naramdaman kasi busy ako sa pagpapagawa ng bahay. Yung bahay namin bungalow type. Gusto ko kasi yung mataas na bahay. Malapit kasi yung bahay namin sa highway. Gusto ko makita yung labas po labas pag nasa itaas ako ng bahay namin. So, retired professional teacher. If you are going to code that, what I use is like an emotion code. Expressed herself well. Kasi nakatira kami sa... And then, dun sa part na yon on the as a retired teacher, maraming pagbabago, adjustment in life as a retired teacher. So, as a retired teacher, she also experienced to be busy in life. Okay? And then, the feelings of fulfillment on the last passage of the statement. The other one, so if you are going to see that, so I code that into PBI1, means public school teacher, be beautiful, I interview, and then I got this statement from question number 1. And the other one is, how does a newly retired professional teacher describe his or her experience as a new retiree? According to her, the code is PBI2. Question number 2, naboboring ako kaya minsan gusto ko mag-apply sa private school. Kaso ayaw ng mga anak ko. Naging PTA president ako noong 2015 pagkatapos ng retirement ko noong 2014. She also said that she was happy in her retirement. So, boredom, she felt boredom, and at the same time, she had experienced difficulty and satisfaction as a newly retired teacher. The third question, I code that as PBI2. Number 3 is, what happens of being retired does he or she find most challenging and rewarding and why? Sabi niya, close ako sa pamilya ni Mayora, na aksidente yung aking kapatid at anak na nagmomotor. Habang inaasikaso ko yung project namin sa PTA, whenever I see the table and chair which used by the students, I feel very happy, she added. So, happy, I code that in the emotional code as happy, test of life, and then fulfillment. For number 4 question, I code that as PBI4. How does he or she adjust his or her life as a new retiree? She said, honestly speaking, di pa ako talaga nakapag-adjust. Sanay kasi akong gumising na maaga. Tapos papasok sa school. Sa ngayon kasi tuwing umaga, I help my daughter to wash their clothes kasi bagong panganak siya. Masaya pa din naman ako kasi nasa school pa din naman ako kasi nasa PTA naman ako. She tell the issue about the collection which were prohibited by the DepEd, but I really feel bored and I decided to apply in private school, but there is an issue behind. So, she stated some of the her statements. So I code that as with the emotional code confused on the first part of it, and then later on, as she said, I help my daughter to wash, so that is helpful code. And then sa may bandang baba, it's more personal thing, she added. So I code that as PBI4. So when you are having your interview, do not ever try to control the answers of your subject or your participant. Hayaan nyo lang siya magsalita. Kasi you will find out some of the unexpected data that you can get from your subject or from your participants. So these are the significant meanings. So I was fulfilled. Ayan. The formulated meaning, participants succeed in building their houses through the help of the retiree. So, yan yung magiging pinakasagot dun sa May, I was fulfilled. So, they are with I am satisfied, the feeling of contentment for her achievement as a retiree. So, it is difficult for me to leave school, according to her. Is it because if you are going to formulate that in a meaning, the transfer from one level to another because of mandatory requirement for the retirement status. I feel boredom, as she added. The retired teacher reached the state of being bored. I was happy. Participant expressed herself as she always see that the project accomplished in PTA were used by the students during recess time. I was confused. If you are going to formulate that in a meaning based on my result, the difficulty to adjust in her new life as a retired teacher because of usual things did when she was a teacher before. And I really feel that I tested by God. Participant experienced challenging role when her son and brother experienced accident in motorcycle. And I am helpful. The retiree helped her daughter to wash clothes because of the condition. So with that, with such meaning, hindi ito yung mismong ilalagay natin doon sa pinaka sa pinakasagot. But of course, this will serve only as the result as well, pero hindi siya talaga yung ilalagay natin doon sa mismong result. We have going to include such formulated meaning based dun sa statement ni subject. Okay? Ang ilalagay lang natin doon yung kanyang passage, yung statement na sinabi niya, and then we have to formulate the meaning. Okay? So, kumbaga, sa quantitative, ito yung pinaka-computation. But in qualitative, ito yung itsura niya. Okay? So, as you have that, after you record all the result, babalik tayo uli kay subject or kay participant. Sasabihin mo sa kanya kung ito ba yung kanyang mga sinabi. Kasi mamaya to test the validity and the reliability and at the same time the accuracy of your findings, you have to go back sa inyong subject or participant and ask kung ito yung sinabi niya. Okay? Now, there are common types of coding. Ayan, na to, but this is more deeper. Is it because mostly of these types of coding is applied or utilized or applied in the grounded theory approach. But, okay, I have here the sample. Students as judges, an analysis of students' evaluation of their teachers by Henry Bernardo. Sir Henry Bernardo is a professor from La Salle, Dasma. Okay? So, with him, the raw data code, they categorize that with the core categories and then they come up with a theory. In the grounded theory approach kasi, wala kasi talagang theory. Wala kasing, you are the one, as a researcher, you are the one will make your own theory based dun sa result. Okay? Kumbaga, in our experience as a researcher, meron na tayong mga theory na pinagkukuhaan. But in grounded theory, you are the one will make the theory based dun sa statements or sa passage ng ating mga subject or participants. So these are the codes or positive codes that Sir Bernardo think and applied for the study. The strengths: friendly, considerate, patient, God-fearing, and such other. He had also the negative or weaknesses: too strict, discriminating, disrespecting, tactless, temperamental, and such other. Okay? And categories: personal traits, physical qualities. So, kung sa quantitative, ito yung mga subcategories. So, kinategorize niya yan, yung kanyang study based on this. And then, ayan, it is divided into 3 core categories: personality, teaching skills, and teaching strategy. So, ito yung kanyang mga concepts, codes, and at the same time, the core categories. Okay? So, in data analysis, what most important is you have to listen, transcribe, and reading the participant descriptions based on their experiences. Rereading the description for deeper understanding. Kailangan uling basahin, and then you have to identify and making list of significant statements. So as what I had give you the example kanina. And you have to formulate the meaning of the significant statement to expose the hidden meanings. Organize and group meanings into smallest possible number of clusters and deduce a theme from each cluster. Formulate a description of the participants' feelings and perspective of the phenomenon. And ensure the trustworthiness or validity of the findings. Ito yung sinabi ko kanina, peer review, clarify that to researcher, to bracketing, members check. Ayan, so babalik kayo kay subject para itanong kung ito ba yung kanyang mga sinabi as you conducted the interview. So these are the significant meanings with the sample of Dr. Bernardo's study. I was invited, the transfer from one church to another begins. I was confused. Ayan. So, nilagay niya yung mga formulated meaning niya dyan based dun sa significant statements that came from the subject. So, it was difficult for me to leave. The transfer from the Catholic Church to the new church, or it was difficult to the participants. And these are the checklists for qualitative research. If you want to check the validity of your findings, you must consider the following checklist. Example of those: are you convinced that a qualitative approach is appropriate with your investigate phenomenon that cannot be quantified? Kasi meron kasi mga researchers talaga na hindi pwedeng ma-interpret through numerical approach, but of course through quantitative approach. So are you clear as to what your study seeks to do? How defensible or rigorous is your research design or methodology? How well was the data collection carried out? And such other. Is the role of the researcher clearly described? Did you clearly describe the context of your research? Were the methods reliable? How clear and coherent is the reporting of ethical considerations? Is the data analysis sufficient and rigorous? Are the data rich in terms of depth understanding, or the data in depth convincing ba? Is the analysis reliable? Were the necessary steps in analysis were taken? So those are the things that we may consider for qualitative research. So, are the findings convincing? Are the findings relevant to the aims of the study? Are the conclusions adequate? So, ayan. So, for now, that's all. If you want to reach me, you may message me in my personal FB account, Joseph C. Butawan, or email address joseph.butawan@deped.gov.ph, with my mobile number 0950-831-5431. So that's all for today, and good evening to all of you.